Thank you so much. Hello, my name is Jessica Lee, and I am the International Youth Conference Director. And here with me is Honorable Petro Roque. Honorable Roque is the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean, President Emeritus and President of the Third Standing Committee on Dialogue Among Civilization and Human Rights of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean. Thank you so much, Honorable, for coming to the International Youth Conference. And here I would like to give you the floor.
Okay, thank you so much. For me, it's an honor to be here with you. Let me just, before a brief presentation, what is the PAM, Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean. So the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean gathers all the national parliaments around the Mediterranean basin. I mean, from Lisbon to Ankara, and from Ankara to Rabat, so all the Mediterranean basin, and also we have a few member parliaments of the Gulf region. I mean, the Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain, and we have an application of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as well. So we are expanding a little bit, but our core is the Mediterranean, and as you know, the Mediterranean has a lot of problems, but it represents also a lot of opportunities. So, distinguished participants, I'm sorry because I'm reading from my smartphone because I have to make a few adaptations to adjust the speech to the objectives of this session. So, the last version that I have is on my smartphone, so I have to read it from here. I hope everything is all right. I don't trust too much the new technologies, but I think everything will be fine. So, dear friends, it is a great honor for me to be here today in my capacity of President of the Third Standing Committee on Dialogue Among Civilizations and Human Rights of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean. I am pleased to see so many young delegations here, and I would like to greet all of you watching online as well. My gratitude goes to the organizers of Generation Next for their commitment to discuss a common goal: the reconstruction of peaceful and sustainable communities. PAM, which is the acronym for the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean, PAM has been established for this exact purpose: to create a space for durable peace, dialogue, and inclusive prosperity. It does so through the instrument of diplomacy, parliamentary diplomacy. Despite the socio-cultural diversity among our members, the Assembly has successfully contributed to finding common solutions to regional challenges over the years. However, as we look around the world today, we are going through very difficult times. Ongoing conflicts, increasing inequality, and the climate crisis pose significant challenges that disproportionately affect you, the younger generation, the most. That is why your active participation is crucial. So, dear friends, the resurgence of violence in the Middle East, violent clashes in Sudan and Niger, the insecurity in the Sahel region, and the brutal Russian aggression against Ukraine are causing immense suffering. Wars do not bring solutions. They only bring misery that grows wider in our globalized world. We need just solutions to peace to last. The Russian invasion of Ukraine not only violated the UN Charter and its values, but also impacted our region at multiple levels. It has triggered a severe global food and energy security crisis, exacerbating existing food and water shortages, environmental degradation, and rising unemployment, which in turn fuel further conflicts. In times of adversity, we are tasked with more than just providing immediate relief. Peacemaking requires more than the absence of conflict or resolution of these disputes. As parliamentarians, we must strive to ensure access to basic needs, education, healthcare, and protection for the most vulnerable. As parliamentarians, we must foster long-lasting, equitable solutions. In the Middle East, first and foremost, where the cycle of violence needs to be broken, A PAM mission has just returned from Amman, Ramallah, and Jerusalem. We at PAM are also particularly concerned with the recruitment of young school children by the terrorist organizations in the Sahel region. And we support the work of the United Nations Office of Counterterrorism and CTED. In early October in Vienna, PAM will be present at the policy dialogue on the role of youth in preventing violent extremism through the participation of PAM President Emeritus, Honorable General Millor, and Honorable Derar Al-Falazi from the Emirates, who have both been very active in promoting the rights of children and in fighting organized crime. The dramatic summer along the Mediterranean shores in Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East has highlighted the reality of the climate crisis. Alarming records and increasing frequency of extreme heat waves, droughts, wildfires, storms, and floods makes the Mediterranean basin one of the most affected regions in the world, warming 20% faster than the global average. Climate change acts as a threat multiplier. It endangers fundamental rights, human rights, such as access to food, water, health, education, and adequate housing. If we don't take concrete climate and development actions, millions of people will be forced to leave their homeland, moving within and across borders in search of better prospects. PAM regularly attends the World Youth Forum, and our assembly strives to be represented by young MPs during climate talks such as the one that took place in Egypt in June last year. North Africa is projected to have the largest proportion of climate migrants relative to its total population, up to 19 million people before 2015. At PAM, we have been advocating for the recognition of environmental refugee as a legal concept in international law. Furthermore, PAM will be present at COP28 as it has been on the past COPs to step up international efforts and hold our governments accountable. On migration itself, we cannot stand still when thousands, among which children and young adults, perish in our sea week after week. Our Mediterranean Sea has become an open cemetery with over 2,300 migrants missing or dead since the beginning of the year. Saving lives is an object of the Global Compact on Migration, one by which PAM stands. It is vital that us, Member of Parliament, adopt legislative measures to criminalize further the traffickers that exploit poverty and human despair. It is vital that we cooperate further with our neighbors, the countries of origin and the transit countries, and that we build hope in the countries of origin. Traditional diplomacy and parliamentary diplomacy must work hand in hand. Peacebuilding also involves creating inclusive spaces, addressing social inequalities, and striving for justice and reconciliation. The advancement of women's rights is especially crucial. Within the PAM region, women make up less than 23% of members of parliament, far below the UN's recommend of 30%. To uphold its commitment to gender equality, PAM has established the Women Parliamentary Forum, a platform to further gender policy mainstreaming. PAM strives to participate in regional parliamentary discussions, such as the regular University on Youth and Development, sponsored by the Council of Europe. We also strive to include our young MPs in conferences where migrations and climate change are discussed. The former president of the Third Standing Committee, my colleague Jana Chiara Hem from Italy, attended the Across the Sea conference organized by a collective on young students to discuss migration, for example. And day after day, we include young researchers from across the Mediterranean in our International Studies Center located in San Marino. The young students, third or fourth year students generally, are engaged in research and support the work of our assembly. They come from as far as Chad to work and support parliamentary diplomacy. We are particularly proud of all students from Palestine and from Israel to work side by side and together for several months at a time. I invite you to reach our PAM if you would like to join us. You can have information on our PAM website, www.pam.int. ENT. So, dear friends, as the future leaders and change makers of our society, you have the potential to make a significant impact on the world around us. I would have to be engaged and not just online. We need your voices and we need your actions. So do get involved in your communities. As peacemaking requires dialogue and mutual understanding, your voice must be part of that conversation. With your energy, passion, and fresh perspectives, your generation must be at the forefront of peace-building efforts, paving the path towards a brighter future. You can make the difference, and your actions matter. I thank you all for your attention. So, of course, I'm available for any questions that you want to make.
Thank you. And I can actually come back and sit with the Honorable to see if we have any questions from the in-person attendees. Yes, please, sir.
Thank you so much for the precise presentation. Talking from my experience in sub-Saharan region, we've experienced unprecedented amount of forceful migrations over the past few years across the Mediterranean Sea. What do you think Palm region is doing to cope with this situation? Because as long as the climate crisis, I mean, we all know what's going on right now. Nature is wild. We've experienced a lot of natural disasters over the past few months. I mean, high heat waves and all these things could be as a result of why people are leaving their homes and migrating to another region. Because we always see this as, immigrants, but most of the time they go into these places to look for opportunities. So the best way I think this could be coped is by making those same opportunities available at at their home countries. But we always see migration as like a form of immigrants as burden or as in a form of crisis we are facing right now. I think I may need to know from your own perspective, what do you think will be done to cope this situation? Because it's going to get bad every year. Year after year is getting bad. So what do we do right now as we are at the cross border to the 2030 agenda?
Okay, thank you. We can join two or three questions, and then I will reply if you don't mind.
Okay.
Or if you prefer, I can.
We can do it question by question.
Okay.
Yes,
With great pleasure. So, as I told in my intervention, we are trying to pass the concept of climate refugee, which means that someone due to the climate change that needs to be a refugee in another country because he's not a classical economic migrant, but is a refugee by nature. Also, the problem is, UN made a great effort with the Compact on Migration, despite the fact that a few countries didn't sign those pacts, and the pact is not binding. It is important because it is important to regulate the migration. The European countries need migrants because they have these poor rates of births, so they need migrants. And the question is, we need to regulate this migration. If we can regulate the migration, there won't be needed to have those ventures on the Mediterranean and people being exploited by other people without respect for them and the respect for their human rights and getting money with them. So this is important, and it's also important that the developed countries help the countries of origin of the migration in order to develop, because if the countries have stability, if they have good governance, if they have economic and social development, less people has the need to abandon their countries, their families, in order to migrate to Europe or somewhere else. So it is very important that Europe can work side by side with those countries in order to have some kind of someone has talked about a kind of Marshall Plan for the development of those countries. I think that is important, and that's something we need to address as parliamentarians in order to force the governments to have this kind of approach for those countries. It is very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions from the in-person attendees? Yes, please, sir.
Hello, this is Saad Hussain. I'm from Pakistan. So my question is, we have seen that a lot of developed countries contribute to destroy the climate, but developing countries suffers a lot. So how can we create this balance that we can give climate justice to the developing countries?
I'm sorry, can you reformulate that last part? I didn't understand you very well.
I mean to say that how can developed countries can give a climate justice to the developing countries, although the developed countries create more and contribute more in the climate emissions.
Okay, I now understand. At least Europe is making a great effort for the so-called decarbonization. We can see that on a daily basis. Especially on the mobility, the increase of sales of electric cars and everything. But this balance is not fair for the developed countries, because they need to in order to develop, they need to have more carbon on the atmosphere. So this balance is sometimes we cannot force the countries in development to have the same approach, because they need to increase their production and everything else. So it is important also the cooperation between governments in order to have the same kind of technologies, same kind of approach to those countries, in order that their development cannot be reached at with to put more carbon on the atmosphere. So, but it's not easy. It's more easy to say than to do, as everything. So, but I think it's important to have this kind of dialogue. I think it's important to have the COPs every year, in order that we can have some kind of commitments between all the nations in order to reach some kind of goals. Because, climate change is there. We see that all this kind of catastrophes that we had in the last time, I don't mean the earthquakes, but at least the floods and the storms and everything, the frequency and the consequences of them are very, 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 very bad. So we need to have we need to be focused. We need to move on the same objective side by side, all the countries of Earth. Thank you.
Thank you. And to the participants online, please feel free to send us your questions. We are also looking at the monitor here, and we will surely be able to communicate with you if you have any questions or commentaries for the Honorable, and also for our participants here in person. Yes, please, ma'am.
Is there a role for, or is there a way for youth to get involved in PAM's mission? How can they get engaged in supporting?
Yes, like I told you, you can consult our website with our information about this Center of Studies in San Marino. It is very important to have the support for our parliamentary action. So we have a lot of students there. San Marino is a fine place in Italy. It's not Italy because it's a sovereign republic, but it's a tiny place, but a lovely place. So everybody is welcome there. So my advice is to watch our website, www.pam.ent international. So you have all the information there as you want.
Great, thank you. So I just want to cite some priorities that the Third Standing Committee on the Dialogue Among Civilization and Human Rights focuses on. So one priority is mass migration. The second priority is human rights. The third priority is gender issues. Fourth priority is protection and promotion of cultural heritage. And we also have a priority on education and youth issues.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have one on interreligious dialogue. And the last one is promotion of tolerance and dialogue among civilizations. Now, I myself do have a question for the Honorable. So my background, I am interfaith and I am intercultural and I'm also spiritual. I promote mutual understanding and learning so we can cooperatively work with one another. The blessings and prayers that we receive and hope for, peace, prosperity, and livelihoods are achievable, but at times conflict with our own interests. I have interacted with people from diverse backgrounds, and to this day, I still find it difficult to have a continuous space where all of us can talk about religion, culture, diversity without people getting into arguments. My question to you is, Honorable, what suggestions do you have for youth and young adults to navigate the dynamic spaces to turn arguments and unhealthy discussions into reinforcing positive and equity-leading discussions and actions?
That is a very interesting question. This what we are here assisting here is people, young people from all over the world gathering in this room and online with different backgrounds, different religions, different cultures, different perspectives. This is very important. Dialogue is the key for everything, and especially the youth as a responsibility, not because they are the future, of course, but especially because they have an open mind. And together with other people with other backgrounds, with other faiths, with other cultures, this is very important to common understanding. This is the key, to know each other with an open mind, with open borders, in dialogue. This is fundamental. Otherwise, we will be like a group of people on a castle, and the other group of people in another castle, and we hate each other. That's not the answer. So it is important. For instance, this center of study is important. I mentioned before in my intervention. We have side by side students from Palestine and students from Israel. They are there investigating together, making their searches and cooperating with each other. This is fundamental. Otherwise, the answer will be the conflict, the wars, and everything. We don't want that. We want cooperation. We want what Pope Francis said so many times. Ecumenism is. I mean, all the people, all the gods, all the religions come together on a common ground. This is fundamental. This is what is important.
Yes. Thank you so much for emphasizing that point. It's very fundamental that we can all come together and cooperate with one another. Yes, please, Doctor.
Yes, thank you very much, first of all. That's fantastic. And that last example was really, really highlighting what needs to be done. You mentioned dialogue, and I'm wondering, when you engage people in dialogue and you notice them shift away to arguing and debating, what do you do? How do you help them go back to dialogue?
Yesterday I was talking with a friend of mine here in New York, and he's a senior officer from UN, and he mentioned what the problems that try to gather at the same table Palestinians and Israelis. So they don't talk with each other. So someone has a great idea is to put a coffee machine outdoor outside the room, and they leave the room and they are talking with each other. If you want sugar, they want milk, they want everything. So there are a few tricks. It's not easy, but if we manage to put them around the table, I think this is the first step. This is we must have this attitude of patient to be patient. It's very, very important. It's not easy, I know, we know, but there is no alternative to dialogue. I mean, there is an alternative, but the alternative is worse. It is war. So dialogue is important for people to have a common ground, and to only that allows peoples to develop, to have stability, and to be happy on both sides of the table. Everybody wants to be happy at the end of the day. So there is no alternative to dialogue. So everybody has to make an effort in order to. I mean, it's not to forget or to but to try to reach a common ground. This is important to forgive, to forget, in order to move forward. It's not easy, I know. It's not easy, but we cannot give up. We cannot give up. Thank you.
And that's a really great point that's being raised by Dr. Ehsan. And that is sometimes when we have to make proposals, when we have to pass legislations, we have to consider different points of views, and we have different items on the proposal that we want to pass. I'm sure that you would have to come into situations when the whole entire committee has to give up on some points in order to have the whole proposal or whole legislation passed. How would you find the balance, especially when it comes to human rights, to civil society, to children's right protection? How would you find the balance?
Okay, I mean, we need to have some red lines, of course. It's not just compromise. If you compromise with something that is not to present our values of human rights, respect for gender equality, etc., is not a good compromise. But nevertheless, if we have that in mind, it is important that we can respect all positions and try to find a compromise. Radical positions don't represent the best way to conduct things. But we parliamentarians have this kind of. It's more easy for us than the governments themselves, because we represent the people. At the parliamentary level, all the different sensibilities, all different ideologies are represented, and we need to have this kind of compromises. Governments are a little bit different. They represent a majority, and sometimes they don't dialogue because they represent only a perspective, not all the perspectives that are represented at the parliamentary level. So keeping that in mind, we need to have a few red lines, of course. We need to have this kind of ideological goals. I mean, by consensus, human rights, gender equality, environmental issues, etc., and then we have to build in a compromise. That's the key.
Great,
Okay.
Thank you. And now I would like to turn the floor to our in-person attendees. I see some of us just came in. Please feel free to interact with us. We have the Honorable Pedro Roque here. Now, speaking of civil society, Your Honorable, I would like to ask, at times throughout your whole diplomatic career, you would have to speak to people from diverse backgrounds. Now, when people have shown that they come from a very traumatized experience, they have very traumatizing backgrounds, for the youth and young adults, how should we come about and also speak with them in a diplomatic manner so that we can be civil and we can be inclusive, we can be diverse in our presentation?
Okay, first of all, I'm not a diplomat. I'm a parliamentarian.
Yes, parliamentary.
We at the parliamentary international organizations like PAMA, but there are others like the Interparliamentary Union, etc. What we do is parliamentary diplomacy. Is a kind of parallel diplomacy that fundamentally try to help the governments in the classic diplomacy, with the advantage that I mentioned before, that we represent all the sensibilities that are presented in our national parliaments and also in our interparliamentary association, that is our assembly, that is SPAN. So it's more easy for us to gather people and try to reach those compromises. I give you an example. I give you the example with the Palestinians and the Israeli students on our Center of Studies, but I can give you the same examples at the parliamentary level, because we have side by side the Knesset is the parliament of Israel, and the Palestinian National Council is the parliament of Palestine, and they are both vice presidents, and they talk regularly on a regular basis among us. It is very, very important that this kind of dialogue, because the governments cannot speak. No use. We try to resume the peace process, but it's difficult. There are problems. There are factions between the Israelis. There are factions between the Palestinians, and there are radicals on one side and the other side that hate each other. It's difficult to resume the peace process. So, it's past 75 years since 1948, when the problem starts in the Middle East. And so far, we cannot reach almost anything. There are a few agreements that, the Oslo agreements have been important, but nevertheless, we cannot reach the two-state solutions. We cannot reach two countries living side by side in international recognized borders, etc., etc. And the young people on both sides grow with this kind of feeling of hatred with among them. It is not a good thing. So it is important that the parliamentary diplomacy made an effort to gather people that at a classical diplomacy level they don't meet, they don't talk with each other. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Honorable.
Thank you.
So for the last few minutes, I would like to turn the floor to our in-person attendees to see if you have any commentaries. Yes,
I
please.
want to ask, in November 2016, your organization signed the agreement with the Parliamentary Assembly of CIS, Commonwealth of Independent States.
Mhm.
And what is now the situation with this? Are you working with CIS? What is the cooperation?
Yes, I myself, I attended an assembly of CIS in St. Petersburg in 2017. This problem with the war in Ukraine has frozen several things. I can give you an example. Russia applied to be our not a member, but observer on our organization. The process is frozen for the time being. But still, we hope that in the future, if formally, even Russia and Ukraine are both members of CIS. But it's difficult. It's difficult with the current situation to unfroze this panorama. But we believe we're looking for that in the future, when that crisis is solved, that we can have a good relation with CIS, with Russia, with all the countries, with all the parliaments in the world. So that's all I can say for the time being. Okay, thank you.
What mechanisms of ruling do you have in your organization, inside the organization?
Sorry?
What mechanism of ruling, structure of ruling?
Okay, we have like I told you, we are all the national parliaments are member of PAM. We have a plenary session yearly, and yearly. Next year will be in my country, Portugal. We have a rotating presidency that goes from one shore to the other. So we have two geopolitical groups, not geopolitical group for mainly the European countries, with also Turkey and Israel. This part of the north, and we have the south. So the MENA region, the Middle East, and the Gulf countries that are part of the south. So each 2 years, the presidencies moves from one shore to the Mediterranean to the other. Presently, I was president from 2017 till 2019, and the current presidency is from the Morocco, Honorable Mayala, which is the president of the Senate of Morocco, and in 2025 it will change to the North Shore again. We have also a bureau that is composed with the president, the secretary general, and secretary general, the presidents of the 3 standing committees, and 3 vice presidents.
And you are serving as secretary general?
No, I am the president of the 3rd standing committee, and also president emeritus, because I was president 2017 till 2019, and all the presidents have right to sit also in the bureau. The bureau gets gather on a regular basis, about 2-3 months each year. So, and we develop our activities. We are we have the status of observers of the General Assembly of the United Nations. That's why we are here at this time of the year. Each year we came to New York. It is important for us to establish some bilateral contacts with agencies and departments of the United Nations. So I think we have tried to do our best.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, yes. Oh, we have 2 attendees here. I can. Okay, please.
Sure, great, thank you. So I wanted to find out, does the organization have a direct relationship with the African Union? If that's the case, how well are you ensuring that young people, since they are the ones that are carrying out the majority when it comes to the population in Africa, at the center stage of promoting what can be called stability within the migration sector?
Okay, we have the MOU with the CIS. We also the MOU not with African Union, because African Union is an association of governments, but with the parliamentary branch of the African Union, that is the Pan-African Parliament. Yes. Myself, I attended in 2017 the assembly of the Pan-African Parliament that took place in South Africa. Yeah, I've been there. So we have regularly contacts. And we invite for our events, and they invite for their events. It is fruitful cooperation. Of course, we address also those kind of issues like migration, and we are part of one we call the Friends of Sahel, because Sahel, despite the fact that Sahel is not part of Mediterranean, but is I can say is our southern border. What affects Sahel affects not only North African countries. It puts a lot of pressure on North African countries, There is different levels at the North African countries. We have one country that is very solid and very developed and stable, like Morocco or some way Algeria, but we have, for instance, Libya has great problems. We saw that with the storm and with the flash flood in in Derna. The lack of power, the lack of true power that can coordinate the rescue has this kind of consequences that we also in the television. So the problems of Sahel put lots of pressures on North Africa, and also they spill over to the other side of the Mediterranean. So this kind of especially in the summer when this movement, especially in the central Mediterranean, that moves from Tunisia or Libya towards Italy, the Isle of Lampedusa or Sicily, it puts a lot of represents a lot of problems, not just for Italy but for the entire European Union, because there are illegal migrants, and that cohesion that the European Union represents on these moments doesn't exist anymore, because the other countries said there's a problem of Italy. No, it's a problem of everybody, and everybody should address this problem in order to first of all rescue the people that are in distress in the middle of the sea, and stop this tragedy that makes the Mediterranean look more like a cemetery than a sea itself. And also how to help those countries to reach a platform of development and stability and good governance. This is the fundamental. But what we saw in the last few weeks and months is that all the region is in turmoil, especially the former French colonies with coup d'états, and this is even more instability in the region. That is puts more pressure to the people. And of course, the answer is to go north and to go to the shores of Libya and try to cross the Mediterranean, and more drama. So it is a very, very serious problem that we all should address.
We just follow up with it. We just came from having a East and Southern African Development Summit where we're talking about fostering peace and sustaining peace for East and Southern Africa. And that was supposed to be done in support with other countries that are affected due to the coups that you just talked about. We've got a few countries in the North and East Africa that have experienced the coup. How is the organization trying to foster or strengthen these rates that we have in Africa, or how are they going to use the MOUs that you have with the Pan-African Parliament so that they can strengthen the systems that we have?
Well, the role of parliaments is more limited than the governments themselves. So but we are in contact with the Pan-African parliaments. We support the efforts of the SEWIS in order to try to cope with this situation, and we believe that a coup d'état is never a good solution. We all agree on that, because countries that traditionally have problems or structural problems in development, in stability, in good governance, in the socioeconomic development, they go back a few years when they have a coup d'etat, until they have some kind of stabilization, until they have some kind of democratic legitimacy with the elections and all of that. And meanwhile, the people are fleeing, are trying to go north and to cross the Mediterranean, because at the end of the day, they want to have a good life, and they want to be happy like everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for the interesting panel. So I'm from Georgia and
From, sorry?
Georgia.
Georgia.
Yeah,
Okay.
so as you probably know, more than 20% of my country is still occupied by Russia.
Yeah.
So you talked about the importance of communication and a dialogue. So my question is, how can we create spaces for civil societies and youth to communicate and have a dialogue when the two countries are still in conflict?
That's an interesting question, because I believe that Sir George is also a member of CIS, but he has this kind of problem with the Southern Ossetia, right? Yeah, because so it is not you know, I don't want to be I don't want to look very critic, but I think that Russia has this mindset of imperial mindset that needs to abandon. You know, recently we see that in Ukraine. Of course, there's an ongoing aggression, because Russia believes that Ukraine, or at least part of Ukraine, is their background. But the same has happened in Georgia. So it is important that. So I think that it is important, the answer that the international community has given to the Russian aggression. But I believe that we should not forget the problem of Georgia, because it is previous one. And you know, people look into the other side sometimes when it happened the same with the 2014 invasion of Crimea. You know, there are some kind of sanctions, some kind of statements against Russia, but everybody looks to the other side. And then a few years later, we have this situation, and now nobody ignores that. And because it represents a danger, because an escalate on the rhetoric of war could have a price that nobody wants to pay. I mean, Russia is a nuclear power, and if we push too hard, I mean the West push too hard, they can reply on another way. Nobody wants that. So, but still, I mean, dialogue, of course, is important, but it's not easy. It's not easy. I saw that. I've been at the General Assembly. I saw what happened there with the speech of President Zelensky, with the reaction of Minister of Foreign Affairs Lavrov in the Security Council and all that. So it's very difficult to sit them on the same table. It is what the important is, to sit them on the table. But we cannot reach that so far, because is everything in stake. And I mean, Russia doesn't want to lose their face. I think that Russia misjudged the capacity of the response, the military response of Ukraine. Russia misunderstood the cohesion of the West, of NATO countries towards the aggression, and we are on some kind of stalemate, you know, with consequences for everybody. You know, the inflation, the rise of the prices of energy, the problem of the grains, and the problem of the grains and of the price of the wheat can have serious consequences on the MENA region. One should not forget that the Arab Spring started when the prices of the wheat were very high, and there was this kind of popular turmoil that ended not well in countries like Libya or Syria. We all saw the consequences, and then the wave of refugees towards Europe. So it is not it is not a good thing for the humanity when we have a war, and when we have this kind of rhetoric of the war, and the dialogue, we cannot reach a dialogue, at least for the time being. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And here, Your Honorable, I want to say thank you so much for joining the
Thank you. It
International
was
Youth
an honor. It was a
Conference.
pleasure.
Thank you. And our attendees online, they have expressed their gratitude to you, and they are very much interested in learning more about PAM, and then also in speaking with PAM and you. I would say that right now we are at the closing of this session, and I want to thank our in-person attendees for all your wonderful remarks and questions. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to moderate your session.
And thank you for your support.
Thank you
It
so
was
much.
very
Thank you for your
important.
support as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.